on a project is the architect that you work with. What do we do? On a very basic level, what do we do? What are we responsible for? And also help them to figure out how to choose an architect. What are the things that you go through? Most people don't know that we're responsible for a building for 10 years. I mean, that's a pretty awesome responsibility when you think about it. The contractor gets off the hook in a year. The owner may change. But regardless of what happens, we're responsible for what we do for 10 years. So we also got into the, what makes it difficult to find a good architect. Again, differentiating ourselves. When we were down in Atlantic City this past, the beginning of the week, there were probably 6 or 8 architects down there, mostly from some of New Jersey, some from Pennsylvania and New York, that do higher ed work. Every one of them, except for us, had a booth where it was just pictures, small pictures, large pictures, whatever. Our booth was really all about this, about working with the right architect. Not as a sales tool, again, it was informational, and I think people are starting to appreciate that a little bit more rather than just looking at the great shots. Next one. We started to put together this sort of risk list, as you heard me talk about before. What are the things that we deal with on a daily basis with a client that have to do with the risk of a project? It is probably one of the most risky undertakings that most public and private entities undertake. You're putting a lot of money out there. I've told this story 100 times about the guy, the office building I did out on Turnpike Metroplex. The steel was finally going up on this job, and the guy came to me, and this is after investing $2.5 million. It wasn't going to change at that point. He came to me as we stood and looked at the framework of the building and said, "I can finally see what this building's going to look like." Now, here's somebody who really trusted the architect, trusted me to take his vision and implement it. But you realize how much of a risk a client takes when they engage with it. Most people don't understand how to look at things three-dimensionally or two-dimensionally. Even when they look at a plan, they can't pick up what those things are. A lot of people don't see things till they actually experience them, and that's a risky proposition. So we had this list of risks. So we start talking about what our values are and what the client's values are. What are they really trying to get out of this project? What's important on their campus? What's important about their quality of life? All of those things that are on the sort of B side of the ledger and aren't as easy to quantify or to make decisions on. Why in the public sector, in the schoolwork that we do we find the bottom line being cost? Because it's the easiest common denominator that somebody can make a decision on. It takes a little bit more time, it takes a little more effort to go beyond that and get into your values and what the architect's values are, how do they mesh. That's, again, a lot of what this presentation started to become about. So that you're really getting the best quality work out of it. This is what we've always striven for in this office to have as the definer. It's the quality of the project. You're not on Memorial School. Next slide. Talk about the client's values. There was an issue of safety, outdoor space, and the budget. Next slide. So we talked about how the building was diagrammed and built so that there was this courtyard created a really safe environment for all the pre-K kids. Next one. By separating the building into two, an A and a B building, connecting them with glass enclosed corridors, we were able to create this very nice, secure space that all of the pre-K rooms, which are located along here, open out to. Next slide. So this was sort of a picture of the end result. Here's a case where we had certain values in mind about accessibility, about daylighting. The client had certain values, and really where we meshed them in a very successful solution. Next slide. The impact of our input along with the client's concerns about safety and what the classrooms actually look like, how bright and how much daylighting there is, and yet they're still controlled and safe because they're on the courtyard side of the building. Next one. The point here was, yeah, we added, this cost money to do this, but the client was able to make the decision to go ahead and do that, and we were able to manipulate the budget in such a way to be able to afford it and create this really wonderful courtyard space. Next one. What took place and what happened, I think, is a really nice little vignette of how we worked along with the client and their values for the cafeteria or cafetorium memorial. Next slide. What they wanted was an opaque, non-visible exterior wall, because they use the cafetorium as a place of refuge. So they want to be able to take the kids in here, put them in without anybody from the outside being able to see them under some sort of drill or some sort of incident that's going on. What we did and what we suggested was to pull that wall, the solid opaque wall out, create sort of a covered courtyard, and allow this wall to be completely glazed. So we got a lot of sunlight and a lot of daylight into that room. Again, something that was our vision of how the space should be. We were able to realize and work with their concerns and come up with a design that really made for a great space that still addresses the issues that they were concerned about. Next one. This is the picture of that exterior wall. This is sort of our architectural shot. And then this is the space that was created by putting that solid wall around the perimeter. By moving this solid wall from here out to there, created a nice little interior courtyard and a space that provides the security that they were looking for that cafeteria. Added a little bit more money to the job again, but it was able to be balanced out with other things that we did to keep it on budget. The most important decision you can make on a project is the architect that you work with, because it's going to help you mitigate that risk both in the short term and in the long term. And when you get into to operational costs and maintenance costs over the long term of the building, so the more time you can invest in that search and the better meshing you can get of the values of the architect and the client, the better off you are.